Hello everyone, welcome back to my next video and thank you so much for joining me. So I've continued to sketch landscapes in recent months in watercolor and in gouache, and I thought it would be nice to share another sketchbook tour about these landscapes. I've also recently started a new personal project surrounding landscapes that I will share very soon with you. So I usually do quick studies in these kind of really small sketchbooks. It's just sort of the size of my palm. And after that, I do a bigger, more detailed painting of the same scene. And this is for this new project that I mentioned. And doing these small studies helps me to figure out the color scheme and the layout. And it also, it keeps me in practice. I've done many landscape sketches like this since early summer, and I've really learned a lot about this. And if you followed my previous adventures with landscape sketching, then you'll see I've changed my process for painting a little bit. Currently, I'm using more watercolors now for these small sketches, and I work a bit longer on the preliminary pencil sketch before I start painting. So I really enjoy the lightness of the sketches, and I can still get opacity in my painting if I want when I add white gouache. So I'd love to hear from you what your favorite technique for sketching landscapes is, if you prefer watercolors or gouache or maybe something entirely different. So in this scene, like probably the most other scenes that I'll show you, I really liked how the light fell through the trees and across the road. And I find it's really interesting to paint a light background and then a darker foreground, since it's usually the other way around. So I thought this was a really interesting scene because of that. So then switching to my next small sketchbook. Here we have two that I find sort of interesting. So in this scene, I try to unify the background colors and to really bring out the darkness of the trees, this dark, almost black color. And I also try to show the different layers. So there are trees in the background that are barely visible. And then I have these overlapping branches and trunks that show the depths in this sketch. And the next one has sort of similar colors, but there's a small stream running through the image that picks up a lot of the reflections from the trees above. And this for me is always, the scenes like this are always a great practice, because I find rendering water is really tricky sometimes. And I can read this as water. I see the color of the sky and then it's reflected in the water. But looking back on this after more than a month, I find that I could have, it probably would benefit from a bit more contrast in some areas where you have the edge between the water and the ground. So this would bring out this water even more. Then in these two sketches, I focused mainly on the beautiful autumn colors and sort of this foggy atmosphere. They were done really quickly, so I didn't spend a lot of time on individual tree shapes. I just wanted to render the overall sort of flow, particularly in this picture with the road and then the different hills. And I usually try to apply more faded colors in the background, and this will help you to show that something is farther away. For these two pages, I took a walk in the park and I added ink outlines that I could then paint over. So this is really a great technique if you're sketching and you want to be done, or you need to be done very quickly. So I have a fountain pen set up with waterproof ink for that. So I can do my ink outlines and then I can add watercolor over it. And having more prominent lines means that you don't have to be as specific and neat with the painting part. So you figure out everything in your preliminary sketch, maybe with a pencil, then you refine it with ink, and then you can add just color in a few places and you don't have to paint everything out. So this process is a little bit quicker than just rendering everything in paint. On this page, I really like how the colors in these two sketches make the scene look like it's summer, but in reality it was late November. So it was a sunny day, but still sort of cold and not really that sunny like it looks here. So recently, as I mentioned, I'm spending more times with my pencil, really taking my time to sketch the finer details, and then I just add color very lightly over this. And I use the same technique for the cemetery gate and also for this sketch of a single tree. So I'm still fiddling around with gouache paint, and I'm trying out how I can achieve more detail in my sketches with gouache. If you remember my my sketchbook tour from the summer, my landscape sketchbook tour, then you remember they were very rough with bold brush strokes and just rendering this gouache paint with very bold strokes and very big shapes. And for some subjects, this approach won't work at all. And I've been looking at subjects that I used to look for as photography subjects. So I used to do a lot of landscape photography. And I was always interested in these very, very detailed, sort of entangled trees with lots of small bits and pieces and elements that sort of then fit together in a composition. And of course, when you're sketching this, it can take a long time, especially when you want to render this all in paint. And yeah, I'm trying out different ways to sort of render these scenes in a way that I like. I'm not sure I found it yet, but I keep trying. So you can see I was experimenting with gouache on this page, and then here on the right side I added a bit of ink over my paint to bring out this tree structure more, because I wanted the picture to be about the tree itself and not about the entire scene. Yeah, so this is something that I'm sort of experimenting with. And then another thing that I enjoy lately is having more man-made structures in my scenes. Things like houses, buildings, church towers, masts. I find they add another story element to a scene, and they also give a sense of scale. So I often like to look for elements that can turn an everyday scene like this into something that has a story hidden in it. And you can also see this here. I find this really could be an outtake from a movie, or maybe from a story, or an illustration from a story. So this is something that I'm also exploring right now. So I hope you've enjoyed this sketchbook tour with my small painted landscapes. I'd love to hear from you what kind of landscapes you like to sketch right now, or yeah, just what kind of things you have run into in your landscape sketching. Yeah, so this is it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. And as always, feel free to comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.